On the basic literacy of treacherous officials. The emperor shouted for his father and I responded, while the officials knelt down and I stood. I spend the silver coins of the national treasury, and I hold on to the armies and horses of the world. Keywords of the novel. I really don't want to be a treacherous minister without pop-ups. I really don't want to be a treacherous minister. Download the complete text. I really don't want to be a treacherous minister. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Helplessly becoming a treacherous minister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Helplessly becoming a treacherous minister. The Chu state, Chaotang. Prime Minister, have something to say. On the throne, the emperor wearing a dragon robe looked only 18 or 19 years old. Although she has a handsome and delicate appearance, she is now trembling with fear and her body instinctively curls up. Fan Li sighed. He stepped on the imperial steps and walked up to the dragon chair, only to reach out and pat the little emperor's shoulder. Fan Li, dressed in purple official attire, is already a highly respected minister and prime minister. But he is still a minister, and the act of patting the emperor's shoulder is simply rebellious. Your Majesty, is it difficult to call me Xiangfu? But before the death of the late emperor for a month, the prime minister is not a few years older than me. With a cold snort from Fan Li, the eyes of Emperor Chu were filled with moisture, almost scared to tears. Xiang. Father. Emperor Chu finally changed his mind, and the civil and military affairs of the Manchu dynasty were in a state of uproar. The emperor recognizes his subjects as his father. Some secretly rejoice, some are indignant, some look at Fan Li with admiration on their faces, as if they have found their ultimate goal in life. And all of this, Fan Li doesn't care. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the beginner task, bullying the king. The host receives a reward, 1 life renewal pill. The first treacherous system in history, we continue to serve you. Fan Li checked the system backpack and indeed found an additional pill. He immediately took the continuation pill. The host takes the life continuation pill, which increases their lifespan by 1 month. The remaining lifespan of the host is 1 month and 3 days. Fan Li is a bit depressed. A longevity pill can only extend 1 month's lifespan. He glanced at the Chu emperor. Sorry, it seems I have to bully you more, Fan Li thought to himself. As a traveler, Fan Li naturally obtained the standard configuration and system of a traveler. Is it the first traitor system in history? Traveling through time and space has caused tremendous damage to his body. The system informed Fan Li that his lifespan was greatly discounted, leaving only 3 days to live. But as long as you persist in completing system tasks, you can receive the continuation pill as a reward. Does Fan Li feel that the system is deceiving him? System, when will the next task be released? Fan Li urged in his heart. A life-prolonging pill is far from meeting Fan Li's needs. The system replied surprisingly quickly. Release a new task. Power leads the court. Task description. Please show off the host's power and make the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty realize the host's strength. The higher the completion of the task, the richer the reward. Show off power. Fan Li pondered for a moment, his gaze casually scanning around. The civil and military officials of the great Chu dynasty had their expressions captured by Fan Li. There are those who are angry and anxious. But most of all, it was because he bullied the Chu emperor and stole the pleasure of others. De Chu Chao Tang, do I still have many followers? Fan Li Gong traveled through time and was not very familiar with the situation of the original owner. The system provided a large amount of intelligence, but he only hastily absorbed a part. For example, it is known that the Fan family is the first prominent family in the Chu state. It seems that the Fan family has deep roots in the state of Chu, and their followers have spread throughout the court and fields. Fan Li thought casually. Since that's the case, it should be easy to complete the process of shifting power to both sides. Fan Li quickly had a good idea. You, come here. Fan Li pointed to an official with a goatee among the 100 officials. Yes. What instructions does the Prime Minister have? Goat, whose face was full of excitement, and he arched forward a few steps before kneeling down. Where is this kneeling me? It's obvious that it's a kneeling traitor. The flattering appearance of the goat beard even infuriated the Chu emperor. Fan Li said, you go to the imperial garden and bring a sika deer. Goat, who quickly kowtowed and turned to go to the imperial garden. Taking advantage of the waiting time, Fan Li turned his gaze to Emperor Chu again, and he was also curious about this young emperor. The bloodline of the heavenly family and the appearance and temperament of the Chu emperor are both excellent. Her face was like a crown of jade, with sword eyebrows and starry eyes, but her pink cheeks and thin lips added a strange beauty to the Chu emperor, slightly lacking in yang energy. You. What are you staring at me for? Emperor Chu was nervous and wanted to retreat, but he was already curled up in the corner of the dragon chair. It's nothing, Fan Li calmly withdrew his gaze. Because of the mission of leaning towards the court and the opposition, he planned to always stand by the side of the Chu emperor. Standing high above, overlooking the Chu emperor and the courtiers below the imperial ranks. No, what's the difference between standing like this and being a eunuch in charge of ceremonies? Fan Li was lost in thought when he saw the goat-bearded minister leading a sika deer back. Report to the Prime Minister, and your Majesty. Goat, who grinned and said, I have brought the spotted deer. Upon hearing this, Emperor Chu trembled with anger all over his body. Rebel minister. They are all rebellious ministers. What does and your Majesty mean? How dare to put the treacherous appearance in front of oneself? Emperor Chu dared not speak out and dared not turn his head, ignoring Fan Li and his courtiers. What's your name? Fan Li asked. Upon hearing this, Goat, who exclaimed with joy, I am the editor of the Hanlin Academy, Li Kun. I turned out to be a 7th rank official. Fan Li nodded and said, I asked you to find a sika deer. How could you lead a horse? Li Kun is foolish. The officials in the court are also foolish. Even the Emperor of Chu couldn't help but turn his head and repeatedly looked at the spotted deer with a puzzled expression on his face. Li Kun didn't understand Fan Li's meaning yet, and whispered, Prime Minister, this is indeed a spotted deer. Bastard! Fan Li suddenly shouted angrily. His voice echoed through the entire palace hall, like the roar of a lion. Do you dare to question the true self? The true self clearly shows that it is a horse, is it that the true self is dizzy? Li Kun was so scared that he knelt down on the ground with a thud. He kowtowed like garlic and said, it's a horse, it's indeed a horse. The little one is blind and doesn't see it clearly. This is indeed what the Prime Minister said, a good 1,000-mile horse. Fan Li no longer roared, but looked down at the courtiers under the imperial ranks with an unfathomable gaze. Dr. Jenny, do you think it's a deer or a horse? After Fan Li finished asking, a minister immediately stood out. This is a high-quality horse. Langs Hongling, Weiwei, Zhongzhen, what do you think? Fan Li casually ordered 3 officials from the 9 ministers. The 3 of them stood out and answered in unison, indeed, a good horse. Fan Li nodded, deliberately showing a satisfied and pleased smile. His smile naturally caught the attention of the civil and military officials of the entire court, and they all understood his attitude. Fan Li took a deep breath and said in a loud voice, Dear officials and workers, who would think that this beast belongs to a sika deer? Stand up. Among all the officials, no one dares to stand out. Fan Li finally turned to look at Emperor Chu and asked lightly, Your Majesty, in your opinion, is this little beast a deer or a horse? Emperor Chu had a pair of watery, shiny black eyes, looking at Fan Li and the spotted deer. You're more like a horse than it is. Emperor Chu muttered in his heart, but was so angry that he wanted to cry. Throughout the ages of the Great Chu dynasty, let's take a look at how the child has been bullied by the traitor. Emperor Chu endured humiliation and gritted his teeth, saying, "Father Xiang, I see it's also a horse." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. For brothers and sisters of the Fan family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. For brothers and sisters of the Fan family. As the voice of Emperor Chu fell, Fan finally waited for the system's prompt sound. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the high-quality task, Power Leaning Chaoya, with a significant increase in system rewards. The host has obtained 12 longevity pills and 1 amulet. Amulet. When carried with you, it can automatically withstand a fatal injury for the host. Fan Li's mouth widened in surprise. A talisman. He meows like resurrection armor. 12 longevity pills can extend 1 year, which also brings great joy to Fan Li. The oppressive feeling of dying at any moment has finally been alleviated quite a bit. Fan Li's face showed joy, but he was noticed by the Chu emperor. This treacherous appearance has humiliated me, yet I am so proud. If I don't avenge this, I would rather be the bloodline descendant of King Ba of Chu. After waiting for a while, the system did not release any new tasks. The task rewards are so generous that Fan Li also knows that it is impossible to have tasks to do every day. Since there is no task, there is no need to bully Emperor Chu. Your Majesty, if you have nothing to do, then leave the court. Fan Li asked. The Chu emperor was granted amnesty. As Xiangfu said, retreat. The capital of the state of Chu, Fan Prefecture. Yi is back. As soon as Fan Li got off the sedan chair, he heard the shouting of the gatekeeper. The middle door opens wide. The butler led a group of guards and servants to kneel on the ground. Respectfully welcomed the second master back to the mansion. It's embarrassing for Fan Li to see this. Is it indeed the demeanor of a treacherous minister, with nearly 100 people kneeling down to welcome him when he returns to his own home? Where is this kneeling for him to see? It's clearly kneeling for the young emperor in the palace to see. Fan Li was recalling system intelligence in his mind. Does the Fan family seem to have 4 siblings? Do you have a second brother, a younger brother, or a younger sister? The ancestor of the Fan family, Fan Zheng, followed the ancestor of the Great Chu, the overlord Xiangyu, and fought for nearly 100 years in the chaotic world. Finally, he established the Great Chu dynasty, which had won in 3 parts of the world. Now, the country has been established for thousands of years. The world is divided into 3 parts, and the other 2 countries are respectively the Great Han and the Great Ming. The Great Han dynasty, the current emperor Lu Xie. Daiming, the current emperor Zhu Hogui. Fan Zheng was the first meritorious figure in the founding of the Great Chu, revered as the Yafu by the Chu Bawang, and granted the title of Marquis of Liang. King Ba of Chu, in recognition of Fan Zhengchang's contributions, granted a special favor to the Fan family to inherit the position of Prime Minister of Chu. Fan Li constantly absorbs system intelligence, which inevitably leaves him stunned. Xiangyu, the king of Chu, fought for over 100 years in the battle of establishing a country. Isn't this a world of high martial arts? And per capita longevity, but Fan Li feels like he's just an ordinary person, even a weak scholar. What's going on? He was just thinking when he heard someone shouting at him. Second brother. Why are you standing at the doorstep and not coming in yet? Fan Li looked up and saw a middle-aged man walking towards him. He immediately recognized this as his elder brother, the current head of the Fan family, Fan Ming. Fan Ming has long beards hanging down his chest, a majestic figure, and a national face that is not angry but majestic. There are 2 young people behind him, 1 male and 1 female. The young man is handsome and graceful, with a blue scarf tied around his hair and a sword hanging from his waist. The young woman is beautiful and graceful, dressed in a pure white dress like snow. She hid behind Fan Ming, constantly blinking and making funny faces at Fan Li, playful and cute. Fan's third son, Fan Chun. Fan's little sister, Fan Yuehua. Looking at the three siblings with extremely high looks, Fan Li only felt that the family genes were really outstanding. Big brother Fan Ming inherited the Marquis of Liang from his ancestors, but did not hold an official position. He ran the Fan family business and was a leading giant merchant in the state of Chu. The third younger brother Fan Chuanji has a natural talent for cultivation and is known as the invincible hand among his peers. He served as the general of the Tiger Benzhong and was in charge of the defense of the capital's garrison. Fan Yuehua, the fourth sister, is known as the Yuehua Fairy, and is a bride waiting to be married. People who want to marry her range from nobles to young and talented individuals, able to line up from the entrance of the palace all the way to Fengming Mountain outside the capital. Fan Li suddenly felt that the Fan family was full of talented people, all of whom were pillars of the country, but he himself was a weak scholar and even a treacherous prime minister. Damn it! Did I smear my ancestor Fan Zheng? Fan Li was thinking about it when he saw the third person, Fan Chun, approaching with an excited face. Second brother, I heard you forced the little emperor to call you Dad in the court. In my opinion, our Fan family can start a rebellion and have the little emperor abdicate to you. If he doesn't agree, I will lead 100,000 guards to attack the palace directly. Upon hearing this, Fan Li stumbled and almost fell. He looked at Fan Chun incredulously. Damn it! What kind of traitor is this? Will you speak up about rebellion? I didn't see the people coming and going in front of the Fan mansion. What if there is a meticulous court operation? Before he could speak, the fourth sister Fan Yuehua also smiled and said, when my second brother becomes emperor, my title should be the founding princess, right? Fan Li swallowed his saliva and thought to himself, didn't he? Sister, you are at least called a fairy, not a thief. What nonsense are you two talking about? Keep your mouths shut. Big brother Fan Ming suddenly scolded the two of them. Fan Li breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing the situation, at least his elder brother was a serious person. Fan Ming said again, overthrowing the old system and changing the day requires detailed planning. How can we play around? But my second brother, rest assured that the wealth accumulated by our Fan family has surpassed that of the Chu treasury. As long as you give a command, our family will be your strongest support. Fan Li. Fan family, are all the officials and thieves really chaotic? Seeing that he seemed surprised, Fan Ming stroked his long beard and smiled. Do you think my second younger brother, who has been in business for many years, only wants to pay taxes to Xiang Ning's children? Xiang Ning's child. I'll give you the treacherous minister system. Fan Li thought to himself. Four siblings entered the mansion and took their seats in the main hall. Fan Li saw the three of them staring straight at him and couldn't help but ask, if the Fan family rebelled, why should I be the emperor? Big brother and third brother are not more suitable than me. What do you think, little sister? The three of them laughed heartily at the words. Fan Ming shook his head and said with a smile, second brother, you should know me. I only love doing business, especially watching scenes of wealth piling up like mountains. Fan Chuanyi also said, second brother, you know me. I love to fight, especially when we win battles and kill our soldiers. Fan Yuehua said, second brother, isn't he interested in the throne? Unfortunately, I am a daughter and have never had an empress since ancient times. Besides, they only want to be beautiful and watch a group of men compete for me with jealousy. You three are designated to have serious illnesses. Fan Li was extremely depressed and could only mutter in his heart. He had to return to his other hospital and spend half a day thoroughly digesting the remaining information. This is not a world of high martial arts, but a complete cultivation world. Everyone cultivates and pursues soaring. The immortal realm does indeed exist, and there have been many instances of soaring to the immortal realm throughout history. The historians of the Great Chu, Great Han, and Great Ming all recorded that the founding emperors of the three families had all ascended to the immortal realm. Fan Li was surprised to find that he was an ordinary person with no cultivation at all. Cultivation includes refining body, refining qi, building foundation, elixir of gold, elemental baby, transforming spirit, harmony, Mahayana, and crossing calamity. I don't even have the lowest level of physical cultivation. What's the situation? Big Brother Fan Ming, although he appears to be the largest merchant in the state of Chu, his cultivation realm is actually a third-level master of transforming gods. Little sister Fan Yuehua is known as the Yuehua Fairy, partly because of her beauty, and partly because she is a powerful woman in the Yuaning realm. As for Fan Chun, who is in charge of the 100,000 garrison, at a young age, he has already reached the level of 9-rank perfection of transforming gods, and has even surpassed the level to slay the Hadao realm. Except for a limited number of immortals, in Dachu, Fan Chun has become the strongest presence in China. Fan Li suddenly realized that besides himself, all members of the Fan family were talented. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Chu Tianzi, Beautiful and Delicious Mother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Chu Tianzi, Beautiful and Delicious Mother, send the order and kill all the Sika deer in the imperial garden, leaving no one behind. In the imperial palace and garden, there was a bloody storm, and every member of the imperial guards had their swords stained with blood, as if they had experienced a great war. The one giving the command was actually a woman. She was dressed in a bright yellow dress, appearing extremely prestigious. As a group of guards holding blood-stained steel knives walked past her, the woman remained calm and composed. On the other hand, Emperor Xiang Ning of Chu looked like a frightened child, afraid of getting into the arms of a woman. Mother. My courtiers have been wronged. When all the imperial guards had left and only a dozen trusted eunuchs and palace maids were left, the Chu emperor spoke softly with a crying voice. The Empress Dowager of the state of Chu, when she opened her mouth, revealed a shocking secret message. Are you so timid and crying, afraid that people won't see you disguised as a man? Upon hearing this, Xiang Ning felt even more aggrieved. My son disguised himself as a man in the court, can't he still cry for a while when he returns to the harem? The traitors of the Fan family bully my son all day long, and I wish I could shatter his body into pieces. However, even Xiang Ning himself knew that he wanted to dismember Fan Li until the royal family of De Chu was prepared for the downfall of the country. The Empress Dowager ignored her and turned to speak to the old eunuch beside her. The guards just now have already seen my son lose his composure. The old eunuch is like a withered leaf in late autumn, ready to wither and die at any time. But his gaze was bright and full of vitality. Don't worry, the Empress Dowager. I'll come as soon as I go. I'm just a few guards from the Golden Elixir period, selected from the Wei Su army. Killing them will save me trouble. The capital has a garrison of 100,000 soldiers and has been under the control of the Fan family for many years. Afterwards, it was said that an assassin had arrived in the palace, and these guards had all died heroically for their country. They ordered General Fan Chun to comfort the family. Yes. The old eunuch responded, and his figure turned into a wisp of black smoke, dissipating in place. Xiang Ning listened to the conversation between his mother and the eunuch in chief, feeling both admiration and nervousness. Killing the soldiers of the Fan family and asking the Fan family to pay to comfort the families of the deceased. If that traitor Fan Li finds out, he might be so angry that he can't sleep at night, right? Xiang Ning finally feels much better. Emperor. My son is here. Have you ever practiced the secret technique of your ancestor, King Bawang, since you were young, and yet haven't you become a Yuanying? The Empress Dowager asked. Xiang Ning's cheeks were slightly red, and although she was dressed in a dragon robe for men, she clearly had a hint of a daughter's demeanor. My son is already in the 8th grade of the Golden Elixir period. The Empress Dowager only shook her head upon hearing these words. Xiang Ning said urgently, Mother, my son is only 19 years old this year. In the folk, most 19-year-old practitioners are still practicing their bodies. How many heavenly and earthly treasures will be used on you based on the savings of my royal family throughout history? The 8th grade of the Golden Elixir. Do you think it's very high? The 4 members of the Fan family, Fan Yuehua, are of the same age as you and are both women. They have already reached the perfect stage of the Yuanying period. Fan Ming, the eldest brother of the Fan family, is of the 3rd rank in the realm of transforming gods. Old San Fan Chun, known as the god of war, is even more of a 9th grade god transforming realm. The Empress Dowager's bright moon-like eyes finally cast a shadow. From ancient times to the present, emperors must be the strongest of a country. Once a ruler is weak and a minister is strong, it is a precursor to the downfall of the country. Xiang Ning lowered her head when her mother spoke, tears streaming down to the ground. At this point, the old eunuch had already returned. A wisp of black smoke condensed into a human form, and the old eunuch still had a half-dead and gloomy appearance. He had no bloodstains on his body and didn't even add a few extra wrinkles to the corners of his clothes. But both the Empress Dowager and Xiang Ning knew that a few of the guards in the Grand Chu Palace had disappeared from this world forever. Xiang Ning seemed to think of something and tentatively said, "Chen Gonggang, didn't you say that Fan Li's cultivation level is extremely low? I can send you to assassinate Fan Li." Chen Gonggang smiled and bowed. Fan Li's cultivation is not extremely low, but he has no cultivation at all. He is just an ordinary person. That would make it easier to kill, right? Xiang Ning exclaimed excitedly, not to mention that you are a master of the Hadao realm like Duke Chen, even my 8th grade strength of the Golden Elixir can crush him with one finger. Chen Gonggang nodded, but shook his head again. Your Majesty wants the old slave to kill Fan Li. The old slave can take action at any time. However, Your Majesty also needs to be prepared. What preparations? Xiang Ning said in a daze. She felt that since it was an assassination, there was no evidence to support it, at least it had nothing to do with her. Chen Gonggang said slowly, first of all, the old slave cannot come back alive. Your Majesty and the Empress Dowager will lose a servant who has been in harmony for a period of time. Secondly, the wealthy Fan family business firm and the most elite 100,000 Wei garrison of the Great Chu will all become Your Majesty's enemies. Xiang Ning was stunned and thought she had hallucinated. The Empress Dowager remained calm, apparently not surprised by the old eunuch's answer. Mother, is this true? Xiang Ning still had some disbelief. The Empress Dowager nodded and said, killing Fan Li does not mean defeating the Fan family. Otherwise, even if Chen Gonggang is sacrificed, the AI family will definitely let him do this. Chen Gonggang bowed and saluted. Even if the Empress Dowager asked him to die, there seemed to be no hesitation. A strong sense of despair gradually spread in Xiang Ning's heart. She remembered that in the court today, the civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty surrendered to Fan Li's lewd authority, and even she was forced to call him Xiangfu. Will I become the ruler of the fallen state of Great Chu? Xiang Ning murmured. Why should the ancestors of the Great Chu be held accountable for such sins by their daughter's family? Foolish child, have you forgotten that Ai Jia has repeatedly urged you to work hard to cultivate? The Empress Dowager spoke out as a reminder. The heritage of the Grand Chu royal family is incomparable to that of the Fan family. As long as you reach the realm of Yuanying, you can try to unlock the ancestors' divine weapon seal. As long as you unseal the Overlord Spear, the 4 siblings of the Fan family are destined to become the souls under your spear. Hearing the 3 words, Ba Wang Gun, Xiang Ning also became much more energetic. Ancestor divine weapons once swept the world. It is rumored that Xiang Yu, the ancestor of the Chu family, once used a tyrannical spear to slaughter gods. Mother. My son will definitely become the first child this year, and then defeat the 4 siblings of the Fan family with the Overlord Spear, restoring the royal dignity. Xiang Ning exclaimed excitedly. The Empress Dowager nodded in satisfaction. It's good if you have this ambition. There's no need to go to court early in the coming days. Let's practice in seclusion. As the date of the Three Emperors Alliance is approaching, as the Emperor of Great Chu, you can enhance your strength through seclusion, and the courtiers have nothing to say. The Three Emperors Alliance is a regular alliance held by the emperors of the three kingdoms, namely the Great Chu, Great Han, and Great Ming. There has been no war in the three kingdoms for many years, but they still plan to annex the other two countries. The Emperor's alliance is to understand the details of the enemy country and make good plans and calculations. Xiang Ning had great fighting spirit and quickly claimed to be. But she blushed in a low voice and asked, "Mother, my son has been pretending to be a man for a long time. Can he wear his old clothes to practice? Wearing men's clothing is really uncomfortable." The Empress Dowager gave her a loving glance. "You're already the emperor, are you still so stubborn? It's okay, let's make your wish once." "Thank you, Mother, Ninger." Xiang Ning was overjoyed, not even disguising her tone, but completely restoring her female voice like a lark. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Prime Minister, Am I Beautiful? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Prime Minister, Am I Beautiful? Fan Li rode horses in the palace, leisurely and comfortable like shopping. He is a powerful minister and treacherous prime minister, and the treatment of riding horses and carrying swords to the palace has long existed. The emperor hasn't been in court for a month and has been absent from work at a young age. It's really unlucky for the people of Chu to encounter a monarch like her. Fan Li muttered heartlessly, but scared the eunuch who was leading the horse to death. It is said that the prime minister has ulterior motives, and it is indeed true. How dare you arrange your majesty like this? The eunuch pondered repeatedly whether to report to the general manager, Duke Chen. It's better to do less than to do more. Who knows how many members of the Fan family are in the palace? If there is a life to seek rewards but no life flower, then it would be a huge loss. The eunuch made up his mind, it's better to pretend to be deaf and mute. For a whole month, the treacherous system seemed to have crashed and no new tasks were released. Until today. Posting task. With the jade seal in hand, I have it all over the world. Task description. Use the jade seal without the emperor's permission. The higher the completion rate of the task, the richer the reward. The jade seal has always been used by only two types of people. One is the emperor, and the other is the eunuchs beside the emperor. But when eunuchs use jade seals, they are also authorized by the emperor to be the tool person responsible for stamping. It's rare for Fan Li to refuse new tasks. Not to mention tampering with the emperor's jade seal, even if the emperor is caught and spanked, he will not hesitate to do it. The little emperor hasn't gone to court for a long time, and the memorials of his courtiers have piled up like a mountain. It's just my turn to handle them. Go to Qingming Hall. When not in court, all official memorials were sent to the Qingming Hall. Fan Li walked into the palace, left the eunuch and palace maid, and came alone to the imperial court. He didn't sit on the dragon chair. A treacherous minister is also a minister. Fan Li moved a chair and sat on the side. Dip the pen in cinnabar and seal it with ink. Fan Li's review of the memorial was surprisingly very meticulous. In fact, the original owner Fan Li was full of knowledge and skills, and he also inherited the original owner's abilities after crossing over. The speed of reviewing memorials was extremely fast, only half a day's work, and Fan Li's mind rang with a system prompt sound. Complete the task, with the jade seal in hand, I have it in the world. The host abuses the jade seal, surpasses and disdains imperial power, with extremely high task completion and doubled rewards. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained 1 marrow washing pill, which can repair damaged root bones. Detected that the host's root bone has been severely injured, automatically using the wash marrow pill. Fan Li was taken aback. Has the original owner of this body suffered a serious bone injury? The wash marrow pill was automatically used, and Fan Li also noticed some changes in his body. He closed his eyes and remained calm, immersed in enlightenment, but forgot that he was still holding the jade seal in his hand. Ah! How did this traitor come to Qingming Hall? Still holding my jade seal. Emperor Xiang Ning of Chu was dressed in his daughter's attire, with eyebrows and temples painted, and a pink and daisy palace attire. After practicing in seclusion for a month, Emperor Chu was ultimately a woman, driven by a cleanliness obsession to go out of seclusion and bathe and change clothes. She still changed into her favorite women's palace attire and even made up beautifully. The place where Xiang Ning is closed off is called Guyi Hall, which is connected to Qingming Hall. She remembered several days of not correcting the memorial, so she came over to take a look, only to run into Fan Li. The traitor who took my jade seal must have had a bad heart. Ah! How dare he tamper with a memorial that I haven't even reviewed? Xiang Ning became increasingly angry as she looked at her. After she closed down, her skills slightly increased, and she was full of confidence, wishing to slap Fan Li to death. Did you fall asleep? When she tiptoed up to Fan Li, she realized that his eyes were tightly closed as if he was sleeping soundly. Xiang Ning couldn't help but take a few more glances at Fan Li. Fan's family consists of 4 siblings, each of whom is a unique figure, and Fan Li's appearance is naturally excellent. Xiang Ning stared at Fan Li's face for a while, feeling a bit dazed and disoriented. She said angrily, "Humph. You have a good skin, but you are the world's top traitor." Xiang Ning's gaze fell once again on the imperial case, where there was a stack of memorials reviewed by Fan Li. The more you think, the more angry you become. She picked up a memorial and opened it with a sneer. A treacherous minister in power must engage in activities that harm the country and the people, and abuse the people. When I find out Fan Li's mistake and correct it again, do you think Fan Li still has the face to be my prime minister of the Great Chu? The first memorial, the governor of Linjiang, reported on the uprising. The main idea is as follows. Locust infestation in Linjiang County has caused no harvest in the farmland. Hungry people stormed the county government, robbed granaries, and injured officials. As a result, the governor of Linjiang requested to send troops to suppress the uprising. Xiang Ning muttered to himself, the starving people are also the people of our Great Chu. How can we use military force against the people? If I had seen this memorial earlier, I would have issued an order to allocate food to aid the disaster victims. She was curious for a moment and wanted to know how Fan Li handled it. His gaze fell straight on the blank space at the end of the memorial, and a magnificent section of regular script caught his eye. The locust plague harms the people, and county officials do not know how to console the people. They have committed dereliction of duty and should not use military force against the people. Immediately open the Linjiang County Treasury and release food to save the people. Announce the crime of county officials' dereliction of duty and dismiss them from their official positions in order to appease the people. In addition, this year's agricultural season has passed, and the affected people are afraid of having no money or food to spend the winter. The prefect should use work to provide relief, so that the people can earn money and food. If there is a rebellion again, it will be the prefect's fault, and the court will have its own calculations. Xiang Ning saw it in the end, and almost all of them were ready to make a case. Not only does it know how to appease the people and punish derelict officials, but it also has a long-term vision, even counting agricultural hours. This is simply Xiang Ning was unwilling and flipped through more than 10 memorials in succession. Fan Li, without exception, handled everything properly and comprehensively. Is this still my top traitor in the Great Chu? Even the famous officials recorded in historical books are just as talented as those who manage politics, right? Xiang Ning's mood has become extremely complex. Such talent is the kind of governance talent that has been coveted by kings throughout history. Have you always misunderstood Fan Li? No. Talent has nothing to do with character. Fan Li is arrogant and domineering in the court, even I dare to bully him. I absolutely did not mistreat him. Fan Li has great talent and is a great traitor. I need to be even more careful when dealing with him. Xiang Ning thought as her gaze casually swept towards Fan Li. However, Fan Li did not know when he had already woken up. He was also staring at Xiang Ning, his eyes facing each other, and the atmosphere was slightly awkward. Who the hell are you? Fan Li asked. How bold. Just dozing off, someone sneaks over and even peeks at the memorials they've reviewed. This little girl is quite handsome, and her appearance is not inferior to her fourth sister Fan Yuehua, but her makeup is too strong. Fan Li estimated that she was a palace maid and dared to sneak a peek at the memorial presented by the officials to the Chu emperor. She committed a capital crime, don't you know? Prime Minister, you. Don't you know me? Xiang Ning was startled, but upon hearing Fan Li's words, she inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. The treacherous couple cannot recognize my women's clothing, is it because my makeup is ugly? Being treated as a prince since childhood, Xiang Ning loved women's makeup but was not good at dressing up, which inevitably made her feel a bit guilty. Should I know you? Are you very famous? Fan Li retorted. A mere palace maid, where did she gain confidence? As the Prime Minister of Great Chu and not frequently visiting the harem, how could Fan Li possibly know her? Xiang Ning was scolded but not angry. Her mind was a mess, with various wonderful ideas constantly emerging. Finally, driven by curiosity, Xiang Ning blurted out, Prime Minister, do you think I'm beautiful? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. As a palace maid, why not pour tea? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. As a palace maid, why not pour tea? Fan Li rolled his eyes at the words. I see that you are sick, and it's because you have a brain problem. There is a doctor named Hua Tua in the hospital, should I introduce you to him? Is there a Dr. Hua at Tai Hospital who is skilled in treating the brain for a long time? Xiang Ning has never heard of it. But Fan Li opened his mouth and said the other party's name, so Xiang Ning determined that Hua Tua was a traitor. Find an opportunity to drive Hua Tua out of the Imperial Hospital, preferably from the state of Chu. What's your name? Xiang Ning was fantasizing about cutting off the followers of the treacherous Prime Minister, but he didn't hear Fan Li ask a question. She didn't realize it until Fan Li asked for the second time. My name is Ninger, Xiang Ning said irritably. It has only been 2 months since she ascended the throne, and gender is her biggest secret. No matter what, outsiders should not know, especially Fan Li. Go, brew a pot of tea for me, Fan Li ordered without hesitation. Xiang Ning was stunned. You. Dare you command me? Why are you? Fan Li looked at her with a strange expression. You are just a palace maid. Even if you usually serve the Emperor and Empress Dowager, but today you serve our Prime Minister's tea, wouldn't it be considered unfair to you? Xiang Ning's face turned red with anger. Can't one be a noble princess with their unparalleled appearance and heavenly temperament? How do you know I'm a palace maid? What if I'm a princess? Xiang Ning refused. Fan Li sneered, I am familiar with reading the royal genealogy, but I don't remember a princess named Ninger. Your Majesty is alone today, and you are definitely not a concubine in the palace. The only women who can walk around the palace are palace maids, except for the Empress Dowager. Xiang Ning was scolded to the point of being speechless. But asking her to make tea for the treacherous minister was unwilling to say anything. Pop. Oh my. Xiang Ning was still stubborn, but unexpectedly, she was slapped by Fan Li and directly slapped on her buttocks. You dare to hit me. Xiang Ning covered her buttocks, both surprised and angry. Fan Li said coldly, there may be someone entering Qingming Hall at any time. If you don't serve the tea of the Prime Minister, how can you explain it? Do you want people to suspect you of stealing the memorial? Or is it because you have personal connections with the Prime Minister? Pooh. Xiang Ning blushed with embarrassment, but could not refute it. Even, she suspected that Fan Li was protecting herself. Little palace maids naturally cannot bear the crime of trespassing into the Qingming Palace. I don't believe it, how could the adulterer be so kind? Although Xiang Ning thought this in his heart, he still covered his swollen buttocks and needed to cook tea. The Qingming Palace has temporarily regained its purity. Fan Li has completed the system task and just took the wash marrow pill, which feels like rebirth. He estimated that the injured root bone of the original owner had already healed, but what does this mean? Practice. Fan Li's heart was pounding wildly. But looking at the pile of memorials in front of him, he still held back. National affairs matter, don't rush back to Fan Mansion for now. After all, cultivation is not something that happens overnight. The little emperor is still in seclusion, and at least he calls me Xiangfu. Let's work overtime for our son today, Fan Li muttered casually, continuing to review the memorial. Xiang Ning was boiling water in the corner of the Qingming Hall, unable to resist stealing a glance at Fan Li. She realized she was peeping at a man, feeling inexplicably ashamed and stimulated. Once I have achieved success in my cultivation, if the treacherous appearance can reform and be loyal enough to assist me in national affairs, I can also consider sparing his life, Xiang Ning suddenly thought to himself. She has never boiled tea and burned several pots of tea one after another. Waiting for Xiang Ning to finally brew a teapot of drinkable tea, outside the Qingming Hall, the sky had gradually darkened. Consort. Prime Minister, how about drinking tea? Xiang Ning walked over with tea and called out, only to find that Fan Li was too focused to hear her speak. The treacherous Prime Minister deals with government affairs by neglecting sleep and food for the sake of my world. Xiang Ning shook her head suddenly, dispelling the inexplicable touch that had risen in her heart. Consort. Not trustworthy. Whenever Xiang Ning thinks of being forced to call him Xiangfu, he hates it so much that his teeth itch. If it weren't for him, why bother dressing up as a man and practicing in seclusion? Can you drink this tea? Fan Li finally sensed Xiang Ning's existence. But he glanced at the tea and didn't know when it had already cooled. Xiang Ning blushed and retorted, it's all your fault for only reading the memorial. I called you a few times but didn't respond. You can't blame me if the tea is cold. After speaking, Xiang Ning regretted it. Now my identity is that of a palace maid, while the other party is a powerful and treacherous prime minister. Is talking to a traitor like this an excuse for him to kill himself? Fan Li hesitated for a moment upon hearing the words, but nodded. You're right, I can't blame you for the cold tea. After all, he was a bit thirsty and didn't mind the tea being cold. He just picked up a cup and drank it. The refreshing and bitter tea, although difficult to drink, also quenches thirst. Fan Li smiled and said, thank you. I hope I can have the hot tea you cooked next time. Xiang Ning didn't expect the treacherous minister to have such a gentle side. Especially when he smiled, the harmless appearance of humans and animals seemed to imprint in Xiang Ning's mind. You're young, why force your majesty to call you Xiangfu? Xiang Ning changed the topic and asked with a hint of resentment, don't you feel like you're being called old? Fan Li was taken aback for a moment, thinking to himself that the young palace maid is really brave. Is this also what she should ask? Although he is not angry, he cannot tell the truth. To complete system tasks. Even ghosts don't believe it when it comes out. Fan Li casually said, don't look at me as young, it's enough to be his father. The original owner was only 25.6 years old, but with the addition of Fan Li's age before his time traveling, he was already over 50 years old. It's enough for a 50-year-old man to be the father of a 19-year-old boy. Humph. You're a traitor, shameless. Xiang Ning, however, felt that he had no decent reason and was indeed a traitor. After approving all the memorials, Fan Li prepared to leave the palace and return to his residence. Ding. Posting task. Serving as your attendant. Task description. Let the emperor serve the host in any form. Depending on the completion rate of the task, the reward effect can be increased. Fan Li was taken aback. What kind of mission is this? Let the little emperor serve him. Everyone is a man, and of course, Fan Li didn't consider certain things. At most, he forced the Chu emperor to bring him tea and water. Wait for the little emperor to pass, let him pour me a bar. Fan Li was somewhat disinterested. With his intelligence, he couldn't think of how to improve task completion. I don't have a chance to double the reward this time. Fan Li felt a little thirsty, so he knocked on his own teacup. Didn't you see that the teacups were all empty? This palace maid named Ning really lacks vision. Humph. Xiang Ning was also extremely angry. She was the Grand Emperor of Chu, but surprisingly, she was summoned by Fan Li as a palace maid. But to conceal his identity, Xiang Ning had to pick up the teapot and pour a cup of clear tea for Fan Li. As soon as Fan Li drank the tea, a familiar system prompt sound came to his mind. Ding. Detected Emperor's women's clothing pouring tea as the host. Congratulations to the host for completing the as your attendant task with high quality. The system rewards will be doubled. Fan Li froze for a few seconds before slowly turning his gaze to Xiang Ning. Ning Air. Xiang Ning. Emperor Chu. Kid. Are you quite good at playing? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Persuasion Form. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 7. Writing into Meteorology. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Writing into Meteorology. Fan Li didn't expect it, really didn't expect it. Emperor Jiajing of the Ming dynasty actually instigated this Chu prime minister to rebel. There are many benefits promised in the encouragement table, such as brotherhood, non-aggression against each other, joint efforts to eliminate Han, and equal distribution of the world. If I were a serious traitor, maybe I would agree, Fan Li muttered in his heart. Fan Li doesn't need to rebel. He has a treacherous minister system, which rewards more longevity pills than anything else. Moreover, with great power in hand, why care about the emperor's reputation? Zhang Juzheng was full of scheming, and Emperor Jiajing was a rare and powerful ruler throughout the Ming dynasty. These two guys who are good at playing tricks and schemes, why did they suddenly calculate on me? Fan Li held the jade slip and pondered, forgetting that Xiang Ning was still standing behind him. Xiang Ning's small face turned red as she held it back, and she finally managed to hold back from the attack on the spot. Emperor Jiajing is bold. How dare he incite my courtiers to rebel? But why did it happen to be Fan Li? He has already gained power and is only one step away from the throne. Does Fan Li Hui rebel? I have already been obedient to him, even shouting, Xiangfu. What else is he dissatisfied with? Feeling extremely angry, Xiang Ning felt extremely aggrieved and even wanted to cry. Zhang Juzheng also looked at Fan Li with anticipation. According to the intelligence obtained by Daming, the Fan family had a strong influence over the court and the opposition, and indeed had a heart of disobedience. Especially last month, referring to deer as horses and forcing the little emperor to be called Xiangfu was a shocking incident in the world. I thought the Grand Tutor of the Han dynasty, Dongzhuo, was the most treacherous minister in the world, but I'm afraid he will still lose to Fan Li for half his salary. Chu and Han are both weak rulers and strong officials, which is a good time to stir up storms and cause internal turmoil. As long as there is internal turmoil between the two countries, I can seize the opportunity to unify the world, and following your majesty will surely achieve lifelong success. Zhang Juzheng became more and more excited as he thought about it. The strategy of persuading the table was conceived by him and supported by Emperor Jiajing. After Zhang Juzheng made up his mind and successfully instigated Fan Li to rebel, he immediately sent another envoy to the Great Han and also tried to incite Dongzhuo to rebel. Daming Shofu, sooner or later it will be in my bag. Zhang Ju was staring at Fan Li in contemplation, with a hint of contempt in his eyes. In his view, young people like Fan Li, who come from prestigious families, have little ability on their own and rely solely on the blessings of their ancestors. Although I come from a humble family, my future achievements will definitely be above this person. Coincidentally, Fan Li looked up and met Zhang Juzheng's initially fierce gaze. Zhang Juzheng was panicked and quickly bent down and lowered his head. This kid really didn't hold his fart well. Fan Li pretended not to see it and silently remembered it in his heart. Prime Minister Fan, what do you think? Zhang Juzheng asked in a low voice. Emperor Jiajing's writing style is good, and this encouragement form is written fairly well. I'll take it as a souvenir, Fan Li yawned and said. After all, he is an ordinary person, and he is really tired from staying up all night. Zhang Juzheng's expression fell into a daze. What does it mean to write well or leave a commemoration? Do you agree or disagree? Give me a definite message. Otherwise, how can I explain to your majesty when I return to Daming? Among the three kingdoms, the Ming dynasty was the strongest, and Zhang Juzheng couldn't suppress his pride in the end. He said in a loud voice, Prime Minister Fan, the encouragement form was written by our emperor himself. If the Prime Minister accepts it without any expression, it will probably displease our emperor. As for the consequences, you may not be able to bear them. It is rumored that Emperor Jiajing's cultivation has reached the Mahayana period. After the completion of the Mahayana, it is time to cross the tribulation. The realm of cultivation is all 9th grade, with only one grade of crossing tribulations, either ascending to immortality or turning into ashes through thunder tribulations. Since the death of the old emperors of Chu and Han, and the accession of the young emperor, Emperor Jiajing has firmly held the throne as the #1 person in the world. Fan Li couldn't bear the anger of the strongest emperor. Is he trying to force Fan Li to make a statement? Even Xiang Ning couldn't help but feel a thrill, feeling uneasy for Fan Li. Expressing. Of course we have to express. It's a matter of reciprocity. Fan Li showed no difficulty at all. Qingming Hall is a place for correcting memorials, and it is not lacking in writing, ink, paper, and inkstones. Fan Li casually spread out a piece of rice paper, picked up a pen and dipped it in ink, and for a while, the pen wandered away. The late emperor's entrepreneurship was not yet halfway through, but the middle path collapsed. Today is the 3rd minute, and the region is exhausted and in danger. This is a truly dangerous autumn. However, the ministers of the guards are tirelessly inside, and the loyal and determined people forget themselves outside. They are chasing the special treatment of the late emperor, hoping to repay it to his majesty. I was originally dressed in plain clothes, working hard in the countryside, sacrificing my life in times of chaos, and not seeking knowledge from the feudal lords. The late emperor did not consider his ministers to be despicable or indecent, but rather neglected them in the thatched cottage. He consulted his ministers on current affairs, and was grateful for them. Therefore, he allowed the late emperor to drive away. Fan Li made slight improvements to the departure table and silently wrote some paragraphs. Strange, just writing a few words, how do you feel comfortable all over, like just finished aerobic exercise? Is it the benefit of repairing the roots and bones? Fan Li murmured in his heart, gently drying the ink and delivering the departure table to Zhang Juzheng's hand. Emperor Jiajing presented a calligraphy treasure as a gift, and of course, he would like to reciprocate it. Please convey this departing teacher's table to your majesty, the Ming envoy. Zhang Ju feels that Fan Li is clearly playing pranks. I asked him to make a statement and agree to rebel, but he laughed and tried to deceive me. But when Zhang Juzheng opened the rice paper with a hint of curiosity, preparing to taste the literary talent of the Prime Minister of Chu, he was instantly shocked by the literary charm contained on the paper. In an instant, A majestic literary spirit rushed out of the rice paper, even out of the Qingming Hall, penetrating between heaven and earth. The most upright and upright, crossing the heavens and earth, is the majestic aura. Zhang Juzheng's face changed greatly. He cultivates Confucianism and Taoism, using brush, ink, paper, and inkstone as treasures, and nurturing a sense of grandeur in his chest. With his rare talent of being known as a prodigy since childhood, even though he came from a humble family, he now has the level of a first-grade baby. But Zhang Juzheng's majestic aura was like a small stream, flowing through his body in a small circle, far from reaching the meteorological scene in front of him. Writing becomes a masterpiece. Is Fan Li the reincarnation of a great Confucian sage? In a daze, Zhang Juzheng even had the urge to kneel down and pay his respects to Fan Li at the cost of betraying the Ming dynasty. He managed to suppress the impulse and was already trembling all over, afraid to say anything like asking Fan Li to make a statement. What's wrong? Mr. Zhang is feeling unwell. Do you need to hire a doctor? Fan Li is not sure why. Zhang Juzheng glanced at his own departing from the school, and why was he sweating profusely? Is it because this kid doesn't know how to control himself and empties his body too early? Mr. Zhang is feeling unwell in the head. There is a famous doctor named Hua Tuo from Chaotai Hospital, who is particularly skilled in treating the head. Do you want to give it a try? Zhang Juzheng reluctantly recovered and shook his head with a bitter smile. I am honored to have the opportunity to meet Prime Minister Fan today, and I have had the privilege of passing away. After speaking, he still carefully put away the departure table, before finally bidding farewell and leaving the Qingming Hall. At this moment, Zhang Juzheng's heart is already in turmoil. The Jin Yi Wei is not effective in handling affairs, and Fan Li of Chu is by no means a traitor. The article, Departing Teachers, should serve as a model for loyal officials in the world and be recorded in history. Fan Li's majestic aura can connect with heaven and earth, and he is truly worthy of being a trusted and important minister of the late Emperor of Chu. Referring to a deer as a horse has a profound meaning. The young Emperor of Chu recognized him as his prime minister, and he was completely willing. Negligent. This person will definitely see through my plan to swallow the world. It is difficult for our dynasty to achieve anything within the Chu state. As long as we specialize in attacking the Han dynasty and lure Dongjua into rebellion. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. I want to practice and don't want to rebellion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. I want to practice and don't want to rebellion. Fan Li played with the jade slip in his hand and read the encouragement form again. At this moment, he remembered that the little palace maid beside him was actually the emperor. Cough. Fan Li felt a bit embarrassed and reached out to pat Xiang Ning's head. Don't worry, I won't rebel. At the age of 19, Xiang Ning, despite having reached the 9th grade of the Golden Elixir period, could easily crush Fan Li with just one finger. But in his eyes, he is still just a little kid. Xiang Ning is feeling angry, but she is unaware that her identity has been exposed. She looked completely like an angry woman, giving Fan Li a fierce but cute look. Is the Prime Minister rebelling, or what does it have to do with Ning Heir? Ning Heir is just a small palace maid and will never dare to reveal the Prime Minister's secrets. Fan Li. Xiang Ning vented her anger and dissipated a lot, but her mood became even more hesitant. She finally couldn't help but ask, the Prime Minister has already covered the sky in the Great Chu, and Emperor Jiajing is providing foreign aid. Why not rebel? Even Xiang Ning felt that this was already the best time for Fan Li to rebel and declare himself emperor. Why refuse? Rebellion. Fan Li smiled. I am not related to Emperor Jiajing, why should he help me when he is such a good thing? It's just that he hopes that the Great Chu will fall into internal turmoil so that he can take the opportunity to make a profit. This is a simple truth, weakening the enemy is equivalent to strengthening oneself. Xiang Ning quickly figured this out. Fan Li continued, among the three kingdoms, the Ming dynasty is the strongest. I believe that Emperor Jiajing had the intention of unifying the world. Therefore, whoever first causes internal turmoil in Chu and Han will be the first to be attacked by the Ming dynasty. This statement directly mixed joy and sorrow for Xiang Ning. Fortunately, in this way, Fan Li will definitely not rebel. Unfortunately, the three kingdoms have been in a ceasefire for thousands of years and have been secretly competing in the form of the Three Emperors Alliance. Now, Emperor Jiajing has the intention of unifying the world. What should I do, De Chu? Xiang Ning said urgently. She is only 19 years old after all, and she has only been emperor for 2 months, lacking experience in governing the country. Fan Li has been a person of 2 generations. In his previous life, he was a loyal audience of the famous TV program Lecture Hall, and in this life, he has also integrated the talents of the original protagonist Fan Li. At least, he is much stronger than Xiang Ning in discussing small matters on paper. It's easy to say. In the short term, taking advantage of the opportunity of the Three Emperors Alliance, he openly allied with the Great Han, making Emperor Jiajing dare not easily glimpse the Chu Han. In the long run, forging iron requires one's own hard work. Improving the strength of our Chu state is the best strategy for long-term self-preservation and even unifying the world. Xiang Ning nodded repeatedly as she listened. He indeed has the talent of a prime minister. As long as he does not rebel, he will be the first capable minister of the Great Chu. Fan Li deliberately said, just wait for your majesty to deliver a letter to me in the morning, asking him to take the opportunity to make friends with Emperor Han Lu Xie during the Three Emperors meeting. Xiang Ning said to himself, I already know. When I speak up early in the morning, I'll startle you. But this was ultimately the method of plagiarism for Fan Li, and Xiang Ning blushed with embarrassment. The late emperor did not consider his ministers to be despicable, nor did he act recklessly in vain. He looked at his ministers in the thatched cottage, consulted them on current affairs, and was grateful. Therefore, he allowed the late emperor to drive them away. Xiang Ning remembered the previous poem, Departing from the School, and repeated it silently, feeling a lingering fragrance on his lips and teeth. He was even more moved by the loyalty and integrity in the text. Especially she didn't expect that Father Emperor had such a connection with Fan Li. If there was no loyalty to the emperor and patriotism, it would be impossible to write such a heroic article. However, the Fan family is the most prestigious family in our Great Chu. How could Fan Li live in the grass and reeds? Did both my mother and I wrongly accuse Fan Li? He is actually a great loyal minister. Xiang Ning couldn't help but ask, Prime Minister, what's going on with that piece of departing teachers? Fan Li waved his hand casually and said, oh, that's a work of ancient sages. I moved it a bit. Xiang Ning's face had just shown a look of anticipation before collapsing in an instant. So it turns out that you're being too passionate on your own. The slight goodwill that had just emerged in my heart dissipated in an instant. Xiang Ning said softly, a man's mouth is a deceitful ghost. Fan Li inexplicably glanced at Xiang Ning and thought to himself, is this kid so fierce that he even curses himself? I should start practicing too. Fan Li couldn't help but sigh. Emperor Jiajing's restlessness made him inexplicably under some pressure. Strolling out of the Qingming Hall, Fan Li prepared to return to his mansion and seek advice from his family on cultivation issues. Xiang Ning squinted her eyes as she watched him leave, his words still echoing in her mind. Do traders want to cultivate? Is he serious? Upon returning to Fan's mansion, Fan Li immediately summoned the 3 siblings. I want to practice, can you give me some advice? Fan left the door and met the mountain path. Fan Ming, Fan Chun, and Fan Yuehua have strange expressions. Fan Ming said, second brother, when you were born, you had a vision of wind, cloud, dragon, and tiger. You were originally a nobleman of destiny. But for some reason, the vision suddenly disappeared, and you were also found to have a congenital bone defect that prevented you from practicing. Fan Chundao said, "We have always suspected that it was the innate anomaly of the late emperor's fear of my second brother who secretly took action to damage your second brother's bones. But now that the late emperor has died, this matter is completely unfounded." Fan Yuehua blushed and said, "Second brother, people cannot compete with heaven. It is a fact that you cannot practice. But as long as you give an order, our Fan family will immediately rise up and overthrow the Xiang family, allowing you to sit on the dragon chair." Fan Li couldn't help but cry and laugh. "I just want to cultivate myself. Why did the topic bring up rebellion again? By the way, was the Fan family's rebellious mentality towards the royal family actually due to themselves?" He whispered, "So what? What if my root bone is repaired? Is it still possible to start practicing at this age?" "Second brother, don't make such a boring joke. The root bone is the foundation of cultivation. Once destroyed, it cannot be reversed and repaired. This is common knowledge from the beginning of heaven and earth to the present day," Fan Ming said, casually giving Fan Li a pulse. But his face gradually became strange, first showing an awkward expression of being slapped, and then falling into ecstasy. "My second younger brother's pulse is full and strong, with a state of dragon and tiger roaring." Fan Ming exclaimed in surprise, "My second younger brother will practice diligently from today on, and there is no need to pay homage to others in the future." Fan Chun and Fan Yuehua did not believe it. "Big brother, what kind of wine did you drink today? Don't you have peanuts?" Fan Chun said, also feeling his pulse for Fan Li. In just a few seconds, he jumped off the ground with both feet. "Surprisingly, it's Feng Yun Longhu. Has the second brother's root bone really been repaired? Even if it's the little emperor of the Xiang family, the root bone is probably under the second brother." Upon seeing this, Fan Yuehua pouted and said, "All right. Big brother and third brother, why didn't you call me when you were drinking? Next time the noblewomen in the capital will visit the garden and admire flowers, I won't notify you in advance." Speaking, she also felt the pulse for Fan Li. In just 1 second, Fan Yuehua's face changed. "Second brother, let's rebel. It's a pity that you're not the emperor. As for me, there's a set of dragon robes hidden in my boudoir, customized according to your size. Go and replace them now." Fan Li was completely speechless. "Actually, I only want a copy of the technique of Introduction to Body Refining. If you don't have it, I can go to the bookstore on the street and buy it myself." Fan Li already wants to run away. Where is home? A nest of Chen Sheng and Wu Guang. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Closed Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Closed Cultivation. Fan Li started practicing. He carried the book Introduction to Body Refining and headed into the training room of the Fan Mansion. Big brother Fan Mingsai gave him a huge gourd, which made a thumping sound when shaken, clearly containing various magical pills. "Open up and eat," Fan Mingho said. For the first time practicing, Fan Li's goal was only to cultivate the body realm. He estimated that although there are many pills in the gourd, they should be some low-grade pills with mild properties and weak effects, and he didn't take them to heart. In fact, Fan's business has already closed down its Danyao store in the capital of the Great Chu Kingdom. The pharmacy of the Fan family never sells low-end pills. The inventory in the store is very small, but all of them are truly expensive high-end goods. The elixir of this gourd is all the products available for sale at Fanjia Pharmacy this month. Within this month, the nobles of the capital of the state of Chu will never be able to buy a high-level pill again. The Fan family has always been engaged in monopolistic business. How come this pill has 5 colors? Fan Li poured out a pill from the gourd. Although I despised its strange color, I still swallowed it. The medicinal power turned into a warm current and began to wander throughout his body. Fan Li felt comfortable all over, thinking to himself, could this be some rare pill? He opened the gourd mouth and looked inside. There are hundreds of pills in the gourd, among which there are hundreds of 5-color pills. Rare things are precious, and this pill should not be worth a few dollars. Fanli thought and decided to pour out a few more 5-color pills, swallowing them all in one go. Then, start practicing. At the same time. The Grand Chu Palace, the Emperor's training room. Xiang Ning raised his right hand, palm facing upwards, holding a 5-colored pill. She leaned her nose up and greedily sniffed the medicinal scent, unable to help but marvel. The 5 spirit pills is truly a heavenly level pill that combines 5 spiritual roots for refining. Unfortunately, the production is scarce, and I only get 7 pills per month. Besides Xiang Ning, there were more than 10 exquisite blue and white porcelain small medicine bottles. The bottle is engraved with words such as Tian, Di, Xian, Huang, etc., which is the classification of the level of pills. After finishing the last top-notch 5 spirit pills, this month we can only use Earth, Xian, and Huang level pills to assist in practicing. Sigh. Xiang Ning reluctantly swallowed the 5 spirit pills and casually unfolded a note. This is the information that Duke Chen got from his eyeliner outside the palace, secretly spying on Fan House. Did Fan Li really start practicing? Humph. I have been practicing for many years, when will he be able to catch up with me? Besides, I am the Emperor of Great Chu and supported by the world of Great Chu. Just the pills that assist in cultivation are incomparable to Fan Li. It won't be long before Fan Li realizes that the gap between him and me is getting bigger and bigger. Do you think he's too embarrassed for me to call him Xiangfu? Xiang Ning became more and more proud as she thought, and at the same time, she licked the corner of her mouth with her tongue, savoring the aftertaste of the 5 spirit pills she had just taken. 10 days later. Fan Li leaves the level. Outside the practice room, Fan Ming, Fan Chun, and Fan Yuehua had been waiting for a long time. Fan Li casually threw a gourd and was firmly caught by Fan Ming. Have you finished everything? Fan Ming weighed the gourd and found that it was already empty inside. Fan Li nodded and asked, as if savoring the aftertaste, these pills are good. You can make some more for me when you have time. They're quite delicious. Fan Ming's face stiffened and he nodded in difficulty, okay, I'll do my best. Fan Chun whispered, second brother, these are all top-notch pills that are difficult to obtain. Oh. Before he could finish speaking, he was kicked by both Fan Ming and Fan Yuehua. The two of them gave him a fierce glare. With a clear expression in his eyes, he said. As long as Fan Li wants something, our Fan family can also get it for him by smashing pots and selling iron. Fan Chun rubbed his buttocks while pleading with Chu Baba. Second brother, how did you gain from seclusion? Fan Yuehua asked eagerly. Refining the body realm, otherwise. Fan Li replied naturally. His first time practicing, his goal is to enter the realm of physical cultivation. Now that his goal has been achieved, he has reached the first level of the body refining realm and naturally passed the level. After 10 days of cultivation and cultivation, Fan Li is still very satisfied with his performance. But he noticed that the expressions of the siblings were momentarily dull. What's wrong? My cultivation speed is too fast, it surprised you all. Fan Li asked with a smile. Quick, the 3 of them retorted in unison. Then, while the 3 of them had a good understanding, they kept silent. As the most basic cultivation realm, the body refining realm is undoubtedly the easiest to refine. Even ordinary people who spend 10.5 days and a month in seclusion can basically become the first level of the cultivation realm. And Fan Li was born with the supernatural of wind, cloud, dragon, and tiger, supplemented by hundreds of sky-level and earth-level pills. After 10 days of secluded cultivation, the result was only refining 1 level of body. The three of them repeatedly confirmed that Fan Li truly only had the level of refining his body. Cough. Big brother Fan Ming let out a light cough. I declare that all information related to my second brother's cultivation is classified as the highest secret of my Fan family and is strictly prohibited from being leaked. Fan Chun and Fan Yuehua also nodded solemnly. The Prime Minister of the Great Chu and the Second Lord of the Fan Mansion, Fan Li, who wielded immense power over the court and fields, had a cultivation speed comparable to that of a turtle crawling. This secret must not be leaked. Is the wind, cloud, dragon, and tiger illusion really fake? Or is the second brother/second brother's bones actually not restored? The three siblings thought to themselves at the same time. But only the sages of ancient times and the emperors of the three kingdoms, such as the heavenly ancestors, have such things as innate anomalies. The historical records are vague, and no one can accurately explain the mysteries behind them. Three people surrounded Fan Li, comforting him for a while. Fan Li finally realized that he was practicing too poorly. Second Master, according to the palace officials, Your Majesty has already left the pass and is going to court early today. As he was speaking, a servant came in hastily to report. Has the little emperor left the customs? Fan Li remembered Xiang Ning, who was dressed in women's clothing 10 days ago. Is this kid practicing in seclusion or playing in women's clothing in seclusion? Got it, I'll go change the court uniform. Grand Chu Imperial Palace, Main Hall. The civil and military officials were arranged in 2 rows, with Xiang Ningduan sitting on a dragon chair. She has just finished her seclusion, with a smile on her face, exuding a strong and mysterious confidence. Has the Prime Minister not come yet? Xiang Ning asked with some anticipation. A eunuch replied, I have already invited you. The Prime Minister should arrive soon. Just as he was speaking, someone outside the palace informed him. Xiangfu is here. Xiang Ning's smiling face froze instantly. How could she forget this mess? Xiangfu. Listen, everyone is angry. Fan Li walked forward with his head held high and his chest held high. He crossed over the officials and stepped onto the imperial steps, standing directly next to the dragon chair. Your Majesty has left the border. Fan Li stood looking down at Xiang Ning sitting on the dragon chair. Yes. Xiangfu. Xiang Ning didn't expect Fan Li to be so arrogant and stand in front of her to speak, which frightened her and made her unconsciously shout out, Xiangfu. But the officials under the imperial ranks felt it was normal, because Fan Li was already the most powerful minister of the Great Chu. A moment of feeling guilty, Xiang Ning's confidence brought by breaking through the realm of seclusion dissipated in a series of questions and answers. I'm really hopeless. Why are you so afraid of him? I've already broken through. Xiang Ning was so angry that she wanted to cry, and she could only hold back her grievances in her heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Prime Minister's Might and Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Prime Minister's Might and Power. Your Majesty summoned the ministers to the morning court. Do you have anything to say? Fan Li asked. Xiang Ning is really going to cry in anger. It has always been the emperor's early court, with officials announcing matters and leaving the court without any issues. Why is it reversed now? Do I need to report my work to my courtiers? I am the direct bloodline of the overlord Taizu. How can I be bullied by my courtiers? Xiang Ning gritted her teeth, rubbed her teeth, stood up, and took a few steps forward. She deliberately let Fan Li fall behind her and speak only to the officials. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been in seclusion for over a month and have broken through 2 levels in a row. Now my cultivation level is at the first level of the Yuaning realm. Xiang Ning's words fell, causing a commotion in the civil and military affairs of the entire court. Because all the civil and military officials of the Chu state knew that the Xiang royal family had a bloodline of tyranny, and they were able to activate the tyranny spear at or above the prime of their lives. Throughout the history of Chu emperors, although no one has reached the height of the former Chu hegemon, they can still dominate the courtiers. What we rely on is the Taizu artifact, the Overlord Spear. Your Majesty, are you ready to wield the Overlord Spear? An old minister asked excitedly. Xiang Ning smiled but remained silent. His confidence clearly infected the courtiers. Am I going to fall as a treacherous minister? Fan Li muttered in his heart. After Xiang Ning announced the cultivation of yuanying, the gaze of the officials towards Fan Li changed significantly. Previously, it was to cater, flatter, and please, but now it has become hesitant and even distant. It's said that when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, but before he falls, the monkeys will run away. Fan Lizheng sighed and suddenly heard a ding sound in his mind. Release a new task. Show off your strength. Task description. Emperor Chu has gained the support of hundreds of officials through military force. Please have the host crush Emperor Chu through military force. Task reward. 1 continuation pill. P.S. Completing tasks with high quality can earn more rewards. Bullying the little emperor again. Fan Li awkwardly scratched the tip of his nose. The treacherous system has released tasks again, but he may not be able to complete them, right? They are all at the first level of yuanying, and I have just refined my body realm. I am 4 major realms away. Who is crushing me? Gentlemen. Xiang Ning let out a loud shout and looked at Fan Li with a smug corner of his eye. I am here. The civil and military officials knelt down at the same time, showing a loyal minister listening to the holy teachings. Xiang Ning is almost excited and crying. This is the dignity that the emperor should have. Follow me to the outside of the palace to witness the majestic power of the Overlord Spear. Outside the main hall, in the palace square. Xiang Ning extended his right hand to the sky and shouted, "Gun!" In the direction of the royal treasury, a blood-red light suddenly lit up, and then a long red dragon-like shadow shot towards this side. The long shadow of the red dragon fell towards Xiang Ning, and was steadily caught by her, transforming into a battle gun that emitted a faint glow of blood all over its body. Overlord Gun! A minister exclaimed in surprise, and immediately all the ministers knelt down again and kowtowed to the divine soldiers of Emperor Taizu. Xiang Ning has a beautiful appearance on the surface, and indeed feels immense pressure. So heavy, why is it like carrying a mountain? Xiang Ning, who was originally holding a gun with only one hand, didn't have time to put on a majestic posture. He immediately switched to his hands and finally reluctantly placed the Overlord gun horizontally on his chest. During the primordial period, one can only barely use the Overlord Spear. But Xiang Ning had a strong determination today, secretly urging all his skills. He gritted his silver teeth tightly and suddenly exerted his strength. Overlord Battle Technique. Blood Mountain and River. Xiang Ning leaped high, his spear piercing the sky. A visible bloody aura pierced a large hole in the clouds above, as if a shot had pierced the sky. Your Majesty is mighty. Long live, long live, long live. The courtiers of the great Chu shouted in unison. At this moment, everyone was Xiang Ning's most loyal vassal. Except for Fan Li. Fan Li looked up at Xiang Ning in mid-air, but frowned. He noticed that Xiang Ning's face was pale and pale, as if he was collapsing with excessive force. At this moment, Xiang Ning is 70 or 80 meters high from the ground. She looked up at her masterpiece in the sky, with a bright smile. But the next second, Xiang Ning felt dizzy, and her limbs were incredibly heavy. My gun! She was still in mid-air, her hands weak and unable to hold the Overlord Spear, allowing the divine weapon to fall from her grasp. Xiang Ning was only 2 seconds late before falling down with weightlessness. My true element was sucked dry by the Overlord Spear. Am I going to fall to death? Xiang Ning thought in a daze. Since the founding of the great Chu dynasty, she is afraid to be the first emperor to fall and die. Not good. The bully gun fell off. The ministers finally realized something was wrong. Who will catch the overlord's spear and his majesty? Fool. Without Taizu's bloodline and divine power, who can catch the overlord's spear? He will definitely be smashed to death. The courtiers of Dechu were in chaos, and in the end, they were all scattered like birds and beasts. It's over. I'm afraid I'll fall on the bawang gun when it lands. If I don't fall to death, I'll be pierced by the bawang gun and feel completely cold. Xiang Ning felt like crying, but now she doesn't even have the strength to shed tears. Is the overlord gun so scary? All the strength of one's own primordial stage can only be swung with one strike. What is more embarrassing than falling to death is being stabbed by one's own ancestral divine weapon. If time could turn back, Xiang Ning would never want to touch this divine weapon again. Puff. She was lost in thought when she felt like she had fallen into a warm embrace. Ah! Someone caught me. You have helped me, and I want to reward him heavily. Xiang Ning reluctantly opened her eyes, only to see a familiar figure. Consort. Consort. Fan Li twitched at the corner of his mouth, thinking to himself that good people are not rewarded. Saving your life, did you speak your heart out? Xiang Ning also realized that he had made a slip of the tongue. Her cheeks turned red, and she quickly changed her voice in a low voice. Xiangfu. Thank you Xiangfu for saving me. My domineering spear. At this moment, Fan Li, holding Xiang Ning in one hand and holding the overlord's spear over his head in the other, looked very imposing. It's really not a bad thing that it's a mirror image of all races. It can really ignore bloodlines and even hold the overlord's spear, Fan Li muttered in his heart. The reward of the treacherous minister system is very reliable. Taking the risk to pick up the overlord gun is really nothing. As for the feel of the overlord gun, Fan Li feels that it is no different from ordinary weapons. Why are you looking at me like this? Fan Li lowered his head and noticed that Xiang Ning's eyes were filled with tears, staring at him with a very melancholic expression. Although she wore a dragon robe as a man, it still reminded Fan Li of her appearance in women's clothing. Xiang Ning remained silent, but gritted his lips with silver teeth and turned his face away, full of grievances. At this moment, the courtiers dared to slowly approach. Prime Minister, have you caught the overlord's spear? An old minister of the 9 ministers trembled and asked. Fan Li nodded and said, this form has also started practicing recently. The courtiers were in an uproar. The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister. Never practice, just start practicing and you'll be amazed. The Prime Minister is mighty. The Prime Minister's divine power is unparalleled. The Prime Minister has made meritorious contributions in rescuing the Emperor this time. I will be conferred the title of Prince and the title of 9 A group of people transformed into flatterers, abandoning Xiang Ning one after another. Can the little Emperor use the Overlord spear? Is it amazing? Look at our Prime Minister, he is capable of both literature and martial arts. End of this chapter.